Hi there. Thank you very much for joining us today. Tonight we're going to talk about the approaches of reflective practice, the models, approaches of models. Now we in the past learned many models. I'm going to discuss 3 models tonight. Kolb's experiential learning cycle, that is one of them. The next one is the Gibbs reflective cycle. There is another one, the approach of that one, and the third one is Sean's reflective practice theory. These are the 3 theories I'm going to use. I'm going to have a discussion with and the approaches of it. Now, before I kick off to the main message, let me quickly revise what this is about. We are talking about reflection, and this is very much important for education industry. When you teach someone, you cannot do the same repeated teaching forever. You have to reflect on what you do, reflect on what you have done, and based on the reflection, you have to improve your teaching, you have to improve your training, you have to improve yourself so that you can get your teaching better and you can get your students learn better as well. So reflection is very important. Now, to do this reflection, there are tools, many tools. We learned many tools, I think 6-7 tools in the past. And tonight we're going to have a discussion with these 3 tools that I showed you before. Okay, right. Now, before I go to this one, these models, I have to tell you the meaning of approaches and what are the different approaches these different models look into when they apply. Now, I have an experience. 3 days ago, someone at home, she wanted to do some stitching. She wanted to make some dresses for kids. So she knows how to stitch, but cutting is the problem. She needs someone to help her to cut. If you cut and give it, she can stitch it. So I said, why don't you go to YouTube and see how to cut? Right. Now she went onto these YouTube and she watched few video clips, and she said she watched about 5 video clips. All 5 people, they have different approaches cutting those materials. Finally, they get the same cut. They get the same result. They get the same cut pieces or whatever the things that you used to stitch at the end of it. But they approached from different points. They have different approaches. However, finally, they got the final piece of cloth, so you can go for a cut, or go for a stitch. This is the same story. Okay. If you look into people, when they do some work, they do it in different way, and you do it in a different way because your approach is different. Okay. When you do this lesson, if you want to driving a car, same way everyone move the car, but the approach of drivers, it differ driver to driver. They have different ways in approaching the gear lever, approaching the accelerator, the steering and everything, but final result is the same. Okay, so to do the same thing, you may have different approaches. Different theories have different approaches. When the approach differ, the work weight, the workload, the easiness of your work may differ as well. Let me come back to the same example I told you before. If you want to cut some cloth to stitch a dress, if you watch 5 YouTube video clips, all 5 people will tell you different 5 approaches. Finally, you get what you want. If you compare these 3 or 5 approaches, all those 5 approaches will have its plus and the minus, positivity and the negativity. They will have the advantages and disadvantages. You cannot say this approach is better than the other one. You cannot say this is not that good as of that one. One has certain positivities, certain good side of it, whereas it has some disadvantages as well. So the same concept apply here in these theories. When you approach this theory to reflect of what you do, the approach differ. There is a possibility. In this question, we have to examine the approach of it. That's it. Okay, right. So let's have a quick look at this. This is the theory, the experiential learning cycle of Kolb. In this, we already learned it. They approach like this. The theory is this: you have to have the concrete experience, and you have to reflect on the observation of your experience, and you have to abstract a conceptualization. After the reflection, you will have to develop a new theory. If I do the same thing again, what I would do in a different way. Okay, a good example is a practicing doctor. He treats patients. That is what he does, and that will make him experience treatments. When you do this, you go home post treatment. You go home, sit down in a chair, and you recall what happened in the clinic, and you reflect. You see the bad side of it. You see the good side of it. What went good? What went right? What went wrong? All those things you study, and after that, when you see some bad side of it, you develop a new concept. Next time when I touch a patient, I should not do this. I should do this in a different way. That is your new concept. And whatever that went good, you can say, this went good. However, if I have done this in a different way like this, that would have been even better. So that is also your new concept. So you abstract a new concept. When I see the patient next time in the clinic tomorrow, I should do like this. So you have a new theory now, new idea. When you go to the hospital tomorrow, clinic tomorrow, you experiment what you have developed, your new theory, and see. And again, that theory will be evaluated. You will have experience on your experimentation. Then you will do the observation and again conceptualization. So that's a cycle. It goes on and on, spiral. Okay. So it goes better and better. This is the theory, right? Now, the approach is this. The approach is this. In this theory, the approach is about engage. You engage individuals, doctors, lecturers, teachers. They engage in doing things so that they get the actual experience. Here, this theory is not good enough to reflect on others because you don't have your own experience. You do it yourself. You engage in doing things. You experience yourself. Based on your experience, you reflect. So that is the approach. That is the basic approach. So this is about a classroom, a class teacher. If she want to implement some new management strategy during a lesson, you do it and you develop concrete experience. You try it out and get some experience. And then you go to the reflection. Here, what you do based on what you have done. Based on what you have done, you approach with your observation. You observe, you look into it, you revise it, you recall what happened, and then you develop you observe the observation, you develop a new concept. Developing a new concept is this same thing that you have done. When you do it next time, what would you do? So you would draw your conclusion here. This is what happened. This is what should have happened. This didn't happen here. This happened good. This happened bad, whatever. Based on that one, you develop your new experiment. Next day, when you go to the class, same strategy, same application of management. You go there and you develop it and experiment it. This experimentation will not end here. Again, you go. So this is a cycle, right? So in this approach, you do it after you experience it. Okay, after you experience it, you do your engagement, you do your observation. Then you come back again with a new concept and you exercise that, you experiment it, and then you find out new ways of doing it and new experience, new observation, new conceptualization, and then again, new experiment. This is the approach of it. Okay, so that is the example of it. Now, this is the summary of this one here. Concrete experience. The key approach is, what is the key approach? You do it and you have an experience. Okay, so real life experience. You practice yourself. Okay, otherwise simulation. If you don't have a real example or real context to do this, you may do some simulations. Okay, that is your first experience. For example, now today, unfortunately, one aeroplane crashed in Ahmedabad in India, carrying over 240 people, right? Now, certain trainings, when you do your pilot course, you cannot do it in real practice. You have to do that in simulation. The reason is because it is risky, right? Now, they teach you how to crash land. They teach you how to water land. Okay, this water landing and crash landing cannot be learned in practice. It is impossible to land an aircraft in water and see what happens. To land an aircraft and study what happens, it's impossible because you're going to crash the aeroplane and you're going to suicide yourself as well. So you do this in simulation. So simulation is also fine, but you need experience. Okay, so you need experience. This is the approach. You need experience. If you don't have experience, this model doesn't work. This model is not good enough. You cannot reflect on some others' experience for yourself. You have to experience yourself. You have to do it. This is the approach of this model. Okay, right. So if you have a chance, let's say if you are a software engineer, you develop some software and you develop your own experience, and based on your own experience, yes. But if you are not a software engineer, you cannot say anything about it because you don't have an experience. You can't apply this theory for you to reflect yourself. If you're a cricketer, you go and bat in the pitch. Okay, when the conditions are very hard, you have very dry weather conditions, your pitch is very hard, and the grass is very hard as well, it's windy and so on. So you cannot make a reflection. If I play the shot next time, I would use my bat in this way, so I will keep my wicket, still I'll be scoring some runs. This is impossible for you because you haven't been to the pitch. Okay, this is impossible. But a player who played the game on the pitch, he can reflect himself. Next time, if I get a ball like this, I would not play this way, I would play in a different way. So this is possible. So for a cricketer, when you bat, you know. If you don't bat it, if you are a commentator, you cannot do this because this theory doesn't include a personal without experience. You experience yourself and you reflect. This is the approach. Okay, right. The next thing is about this one, Gibbs reflective life cycle, reflective cycle. Here, this is a theory, we learned it already. In this theory, we talk about six stages. First is description, second one is feeling, third one evaluation, fourth one analysis, conclusion, finally action plan. We learned about this already, so we will go about and see the approach of it. Description part is about what happened. You describe what happened. Here, if you don't even experience yourself, it is still possible for you to apply this for someone else's learning. Up at this point, description. You can describe a lecturer lectured, and this is what happened. Okay, so we can approach this. We can take this model to study for those who don't have the experience themselves. That's also, yes. So the approach is objective recounting of the event. You look at what it is, what happened clearly. Okay, so focus on the fact, what happened, what was the fact of this, what went wrong, what went right, and who was involved. It can be somebody else, not you sometimes. What happened there, where and when did that happen? Okay, so yes, at this point, you never judge anything. You never say what is wrong, what is right. You only say what happened. Okay, what happened, that's it. Okay, so this is to establish the clear and accurate understanding of the experience before you analyze it. So what happened clearly, you understand this is what exactly happened. You take the fact of the event, that's all. You don't have any judgment here. You don't have any evaluation here. This is the approach here. Right, now, the next thing is about the feeling. What did you feel? How was the feeling? So in this here, we talk about the subjective reflection. What is subjective and objective? Objective is about something that you can see. Okay, so here you can see what happened. What did he speak? What examples did he take? How fast did he deliver the message? How was his body language? These are all objective. So you look at the objective part of your occurrence happening. And here, the subjective part. Here you can't see anything. You only can feel it. Feeling is about subjective. Okay, what happened? What was your feeling? What was your emotions? And I mean feeling, it is about your emotions, your mind. Okay, so what happened there? So in this part here, we talk about the reaction of it. Okay, when something happens, if you're going to talk about the feelings, we talk about the reaction. People, how did they react? When you mean reaction, you can look at them their faces? Did they look happy? Did they look confused? Did they look bad? Did they look uncomfortable? Whatever. Okay, the emotional responses. Okay, based on this, we can recognize the context of it. How was the feel of it? We can recognize it. So this is the next step. This is the approach of it. The third one is about the evaluation. So based on the feeling, you can evaluate. Okay, so what was good and what was bad? If you think the people were having bad feelings, so what was the reason? What went wrong? If you think people were happy, what was the reason behind? What happened? Why the people were happy? What made them happy? So this is the evaluation part. Based on this evaluation, we talk about the analysis. Okay, in this, what is the cause of this bad thing? What happened? Why this went wrong? Why this didn't go right? Why did not you get this work in an appropriate way? Why did that fulfill the requirement of people? Why did that make the people feel bad? Those kind of analysis. If you do this, you will have an answer what to do. So that is when you conclude, oh yes, this is why it was, I shouldn't have used this example. I shouldn't have used this PowerPoint slide. I should have used this. I should have gone down to the people inside the crowd and meet them without staying on the stage all the time. So you may find it out. I should go and engage with people. I should have brought in some printed materials to hand it in to them. I should have brought in some live recordings to show them the recordings of it. You realize, okay, then you conclude. Then what you do next time, you take an action plan. Next time, when I go to the class or presentation, I'll make this video clip. I'll bring these hyperlinks on my PowerPoints. I may use something instead of PowerPoint. I may get some printout of my PowerPoint and I give that to them. And I may give this to them well early before I do my presentation and so on. So if you do these kind of things, you can prepare those people to listen to you clearly and they will not be confused. Okay, so this is your plan. Now, the summary is this. The description is about the objective reporting. You look at what happened, things, the fact, the situation. The next part is about the feeling. The feeling is about the subjective reflection, the emotional outcome of it, the emotional feelings of people. Emotionally, how do they react? Emotional reactions. And after this, evaluation is about the critical judgment. Based on this one, this is what happened. This is the feeling and what happened. Okay, so you find out the strengths and the weaknesses of it. What went right, where you were strong at, what went wrong, where you were weak at, and what can we do about it. The analysis part is the analyzing the reasons. You are reasoning why this went wrong, why this went right. Okay, after the analysis, the next part of your approach is about reflective summary. You write, okay, this is why it went okay, this is why it didn't go okay, this is why it went wrong. Okay, and finally, your final approach is about the strategic planning. You plan for the next time. Okay, right. So in this subject, we can use without any experience for others as well. And again, in this theory, the approach is broken down into 6 pieces. Objective reporting. Okay, objective reporting. It doesn't say that you need to have an experience here. If something already happened, you can have an objective reporting of it, reviewing it. Okay, after that, the subjective reflection. If you don't have the feelings on your own, you can approach the people who involved in. You ask them what happened. How did you feel? Was that okay? Did that go okay? And things like that. Okay, this is the approach of this theory. The next one is about this, the reflection of Sean's practice, Sean's reflective practice theory. Here, as we know, this has 2 parts. Number 1 is reflection on action. Number 2, reflection in action. When I mean reflection on action, when you do the work, you correct yourself, improve yourself, and you deliver or you change your delivery for the next thing. Okay. For example, if you're delivering one speech, you may start it with certain things. When you do this, the delivery, you realize I'm not doing this right. I can do it better than this one. And you do some alteration to what you do and you deliver it in a different way. So while you're doing it, you do some corrections. We call this the mid-course correction or off-course correction. It's like this. You take off now. You take off now to fly to a destination. when you take off, when you fly, you will have your sky plan. Your plan say, okay, take off from this direction and take off to the sky. In the sky, you keep the direction this way, and you have to turn right, turn left. You have to keep the aeroplane in this attitude, longitude, and all those kind of things. So your destination is in 5 hours reach. You have a plan. This is the plan. This plan doesn't happen exactly what you planned. What happens is you will do loads of corrections on your way. Mid-course correction, off-course correction. Mid-course correction is about the corrections that you do in your direction on your way. When you are going on your way, you do some corrections. That is your mid-course correction. Definitely pilots, they do mid-course corrections, because when you go, you have a destination. That is your vision. That is where you have to land. But your flight will get distractions from different factors: your turbulent air, your air pressure, your cabin pressure, your speed, your wind speed, whatever the weather conditions. There are so many stuffs that interferes your journey. So your flight's direction will be definitely attempted by external factors to be deviated. So what you do, when the flight goes deviated, you pull your flight, your aeroplane, to the direction that you wanted to. So you do corrections in your mid-course, in the sky. Okay. And when you're landing as well, you never land accurately on the runway. Sometimes you land short of runway. Okay. So if you're about to land short of runway, you have to do some adjustments to pull your flight another 1-2 kilometers on top of, or more than where you're going to learn about. Then you land it on the right runway. These are all off-course corrections. So you do mid-course corrections and off-course corrections. So these mid-course corrections and off-course corrections, it happens when you reflect in your flying. When you reflect on the action, when you are flying, you study where your flight is, where is your flight, and where are you going to land, and how much have you deviated already from the pre-planned map. You have to study all of it. Then you bring your flight back again to the track and you do the work, you fly. So this is what we call the mid-course correction. That happens on the off-course corrections as well. Now, today's aircraft crash, unfortunate. It took off just 22 minutes after the takeoff. They crashed into a school or college hostel of students. I think there should be some casualties for the students inside the hostel buildings as well. I don't know. One confirmed survival, and others, the casualty says that's all gone. I don't know it yet. Now, within this, right, this is the on-course correction. Immediately after taking off, the pilot should have done loads of corrections to keep the flight, to land somewhere safe, or to bring the flight back again to the landing track or the runway. They should have done a lot. The landing gear was still on when the flight was crashing, and the flight was towards nose up. It was not nose down. If it is nose down, it's some other different problem. The flight was still in the taking off direction. So now they should have done loads of corrections at that one, tried everything, all the attempts failed. That is why they crashed. So the reflection here, that happens when you do the work. That is what this part is about. Reflection on action while you do it. But this approach is not there in the other two theories. One says you have to experience first. Okay, it's based on the experience, concrete experience. You just complete your flight, land, and come home and study. That is the experiential learning thing. The other thing is about you have to give a clear description about what happened. So that also needs you to be done, to be completed, all the work to be completed, and then you give a description on it. But this theory's approach is to learn things on the way. When you're doing it, you learn. Okay, so I don't say that is good, this is bad, or this is bad, this is good, that is bad, or all these approaches will have its plus and the minus in different ways. So this one, you have to reflect on action. So this approach is different, and this approach include the part of the other part as well. After you complete your work as well, it is possible for you to do this. Okay, right. Okay, now we have set the examples in here as well. Right now, your question, your assignment question, your answer is this. Your question is this. You have to explain. You have to explain. Hang on. The approaches of all these three theories in your reflective practice. Now, these are the three different tools that we use to reflect our learning, our reflection, our teaching. Here, all these three tools will finally reflect on what you want to improve later. So if you apply these tools, you will get some idea about to improve yourself later. That's fine. But these three theories or tools will be approaching in different ways. This is what we have to analyze, which approach or what theory approach this way and what theory approach that way, and what approach is the appropriate one for you. Let me come back to my example. If you want to cut some clothes to stitches dress for a kid, if you look into YouTube, they will tell you 25 different approaches. Finally, you get a cut, then you stitch it and you get your dress. Okay. So depending on your requirement, depending on the tools, certain tools will require you, certain approach will require you different tools. If one says cut it this way, she may bring in certain cutting instruments that is not scissors. You may need some machineries to cut it. That's one approach. On the other side, if you want to cut it manually, you can use some scissors. That is another approach. And on the other side, there may be another lady or another YouTube. It may say you approach this way. You neither need an automatic machine to cut or a scissors. You only need a blade. If you have a blade, you can cut it this way. And some other approach would say, don't cut now. Stitch this. After you stitch this, cut all these offcuts, and you get a dress. Different approach. Finally, what you get is a dress. Okay, so the meaning of approach is this. You do one thing. If you want to cook something, you approach in a way. Some others, they approach in some other way. Let me tell you one example as well. When you want to cook some chicken biryani, you put rice, chicken, everything together, you get the biryani. Biryani itself has the chicken itself inside. Now, some people, what they do, they cook the curry first. When the curry is cooked, they put the rice inside that curry, using the gravy, the liquid, the water inside the chicken to cook the rice as well. So same pot, you put the curry first, cook the curry, then you put the rice inside that curry pot and you cook the rice as well. So finally, you get everything in one pot, single pot, you cook it. This is one way. Some others, what they do, they cook the curry in different pot, they cook the rice in another different pot. After you cooked both, you mix it together, you call it chicken biryani. Same thing. There's no difference in it. I think there may be some difference on the quality of it. It may have different tastes there. That's yes. But however, what you get is a chicken biryani. Two different approaches. Okay. So what is appropriate for you, what works for you is what your selection. You choose what works for you. If you are doing something and if you want to do some correction in action, you may select the Sean's theory. And if you want to do it after everything is done, you may use the other theory. What is the other one? This one here, Gibbs reflective cycle. And if you have already experienced, let's say you have done that in the past based on the experience, if you are reflecting today, you may use the experiential life cycle as well. So it depends. All these three have different approaches. That's it. Okay, this is what you have to analyze. Which approach is the appropriate one? You may have to analyze all three in your assignments. Okay, so that's it on this. Thank you very much. I see you in the next lecture.